to the latest episode of the Gull Mouth Action podcast, where we take a look at the latest goings on at Brighton, Hove Albion and Crawley Town. I'm Matt Polt, and this week I'm joined by Brighton writer Darren Howard, Sam Morton, who covers both the Seagulls and the Reds, and Crawley Town expert and League Two Journalist of the Year nominee Mark Dunford. Brighton enjoyed a 4-point week in the Premier League, beating Burnley before picking up a highly creditable draw at title-chasing Manchester City. Crawley, meanwhile, remained perilously close to the League Two relegation zone after another defeat, this time at Cheltenham. This week we'll look back at a positive week for the Seagulls, preview their FA Cup trip to Man United and pick over the bones of Crawley's latest loss. You can read all the stories we are talking about with videos and pictures online at sussexworld.co.uk/sport. Brighton ended their 6-game winless run with a comfortable 2-0 Premier League victory over struggling Burnley on Saturday. Jorginho Ruter's thumping low finish put the hosts ahead in the first half before Yasin Ayari added the second at the start of the second period. What did you make of Albion's performance, Darren? After failing to record a win during a frustrating December period, Burnley looked like the right team to come to the Amex and lift spirits a little bit.
Yes, yeah, it was an important game for Fabian Herzler. The pressure was starting to build slightly. They'd been on, like you say, this winless run for 6 games, albeit there was Liverpool, Aston Villa and Arsenal included in that run. But they badly needed a victory. And Burnley were not great on the day, but they are a solid enough team. They got a draw against Manchester United last time out. So they can be very difficult to beat. And you just thought it's going to be one of those games for Brighton. You really can't take it for granted against teams like Burnley, especially with Brighton's record against some of the lower teams in the division recently. So yeah, they needed to get the job done, and in the end, it was quite comfortable, as you say. Jorginho Ruter, he got a nice finish actually to open the scoring, and again, much needed for him. He struggled a bit this season in front of goal, particularly when he plays furthest forward in the attack. So a nice moment for Jorginho. And in the end, Brighton were worthy winners, albeit, as we mentioned, Burnley. They kept giving the ball away. Basically, they weren't sort of as good as they can be. And Scott Parker alluded to that after the match. He was really unhappy with the performance. So Brighton did the job. They caught Burnley on a good day for Brighton, and got the 3 points. And it lifted a bit of this sort of negative feeling that just started to creep in a little bit amongst the fan base and into the stadium. And I'm sure it'd been playing on the players' minds as well. So very important to get 3 points on the board.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was a celebratory feel to the closing stages of that win against Burnley, with Pascal Gross's introduction a day after returning to Brighton from Borussia Dortmund, drawing huge cheers. I think it's safe to say not many people are expecting to see Gross back at the Amex, Sam. What did you make of the news of his return, and how did the popular midfielder acquit himself during his 20-minute cameo against the Clarets?
Yeah, no, I was pleasantly surprised at the news that he was coming back. It came out of the blue completely. It was one of those transfers. There wasn't really much build up to it, and you kind of were expecting it to happen. It just came out of nowhere, and it seemed that it was all but done as soon as people were first hearing about it. And obviously, within 48 hours of that news coming out, he was already in the team and coming on as a substitute at the Amex again. It was all a bit of a whirlwind for him, and he spoke after the match to us in the mix zone at the Amex, and just it was really great to see him, and he seemed pleasantly surprised to see us as well, which was nice. It was. He kind of seemed really in a good mood and happy to be back, and the fans gave him the biggest cheer of the day. Really, I think he, despite obviously scoring a couple of goals, he definitely got the loudest cheers from the fans. And when he was first named as being in the squad before the match, and also when he came on as a sub, and he did all the basics right. He didn't do anything extravagant, and that's just what we know what he can do. Really, he kind of does the simple things well, and we know kind of how much of a difference he can make. And getting him in, obviously, I think it's about for a $1 million deal or something like that. I think it's a no-brainer really to bring someone of his quality and arguably the greatest Brighton player in history. And obviously, we know that he had the most amount of goals for Brighton before Welbeck overtook him fairly recently. So I think it's a no-brainer really to bring him back in the fold, and I'm really looking forward to seeing more from him. And as we'll discuss the Man City game soon, he ended up starting that game as well. So that just shows already just how crucial he could be for Brighton in the coming weeks and months, and we just know kind of how much of a goal creator he is, and how much the strikers could thrive from having him back in the team, and hopefully it can prove a real difference maker in the second half of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. A class act too, Pascal Gross. And the feel-good feeling around the Amex continued when James Milner, who turned 40 on Sunday, moved just 4 appearances shy of Gareth Barry's all-time Premier League record of 653 as he entered the fray with just over 10 minutes remaining. Quite frankly, it's a marvellous achievement for Milner, isn't it, Darren? How valuable of a servant has he been to the Seagulls since his move from Liverpool in 2023? I know he doesn't start every game, but his experience must be invaluable to Hertzler and the squad.
Yeah, that's right. We were speaking. I just came back from the press conference ahead of the Manchester United game, and Hertzler was speaking about him and the likes of Welbeck and Gross as well. And it's just the consistency that they bring, how they prepare for matches, how they prepare for training, how they refuel in between as well. And you don't, get to play in your 40s in the cut and thrust of the Premier League if you really don't look after your body, as well as Milner has. And you can see that he lives a life on and off the pitch as well. And he's just been great. I thought when he first arrived from Liverpool, he settled in quite well, and then he picked up at the beginning of last season, he picked up a really bad hamstring injury at Arsenal. He started the first few games of the season, if I remember rightly, and then this hamstring injury just took him out for the entire. It's supposed to be, like a minor injury, but then he just took him out for the season. And my feelings were then that he's done. He's finished. He's sort of 39. He's had this big injury. You probably won't see him again. But he came back at the end of last year, signed another contract, and away he goes again. And coming back from a bad injury like that, just at the age of 39, just shows that he still has the drive, the commitment, and the quality to still play in the Premier League, really. And I think he's been important because he offers a consistency as well. You know what you're going to get if you put him on the pitch. You know that he's going to be in the right position at the right time. He's going to, 9 times out of 10, he won't give the ball away. And that's something that Brighton have struggled this season. Like Belieber, Hinshelwood and Ayari have been good. They offer legs, they offer energy, but they don't look after the ball as well as perhaps they should. And I think players like Gross, Milner will, provide, these, more consistent performances, which Brighton will need if they're to push for Europe in the second half of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't want to put the mockers on it, Darren, but I imagine Milner will probably break Gareth Barry's record this season. We've not now just cursed him to an ACL injury. Saying that?
Yeah, fingers crossed. It should be. It should all be as long as he just keeps coming on for these 10 minutes. Don't push it too hard. Although he started against West Ham over the festive period, he did start a game against them. But you'd think that he'll be used sparingly in the last sort of 10, 20 minutes to close out these games, and he should surpass Barry's record. Yeah, which would be a fantastic moment for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Fingers crossed for him. Well, Brighton's good week continued on Wednesday evening with a highly creditable 1-1 draw at title challengers Manchester City. The host took the lead through Erling Haaland's 41st minute penalty, but the Seagulls pegged City back on the hour through Kauro Matoma. What did you make of Albion's performance, Sam? On paper, as we've said, it's an excellent result, but on the balance of the game, I think Brighton could well be kicking themselves that they didn't manage to snatch a win at the Etihad.
Yeah, I can see both sides of the coin, really, because Brighton were really good, actually, because they learned their lessons from quite a passive display at Arsenal, where Arsenal just completely ran through them the whole match pretty much, and Brighton somehow managed to get themselves back in the game late on, but Arsenal should have been 5-6 goals up by that point. And this time round, it was a different story, and Brighton were well in the game and put in a really strong first half performance. Had a couple of big chances. Pascal Gross, we've mentioned, had a really big chance really early on, a header, and it was well saved by Donnarumma. I think Rose perhaps could have done better, really, with that chance, but it was so early and he hadn't really adjusted to the game yet. So it was a good start for Brighton, and they did just kind of build from that, really. And it was a real unfortunate situation where Diego Gomez gave away a penalty on Doku. It was a bit of a clumsy challenge, to be honest, and it was quite obviously a penalty. I'm surprised it needed a VAR check. I think Pep Guardiola was fuming. It needed a VAR check as well, and he made his feelings clear and was booked for that. But yeah, it went to the monitor and decided that it was a foul, and Haaland made no mistake from the spot. And as I say, quite harsh on Brighton, who were well in the game and perhaps should have at least scored a goal in that first half. With the chances they had, I think Kadioglu also had a really big chance from Jorginho's pass, but they responded really well. And it was Matoma who kind of showed what Brighton had been missing, really. It's like that quality that he has, just coming in off the left flank, picked the ball up from Yassine Ayari and found the bottom corner, put it through Nico Gonzalez's legs, and gave the keeper absolutely no chance. It was a superb finish, really. And Gomez, who, as you mentioned, had a bit of a horror show of a game, to be honest. Obviously giving away that penalty, then also missed an absolutely huge chance to win it. Matoma at the heart of it, cut it back, and I don't really know how Gomez has failed to put it in the net, to be honest. He's kind of just got himself in a bit of a mix-up and has kind of put the ball back towards Matoma instead of the goal that was gaping in front of him. One of the worst misses I've seen in a while in the Premier League, and unfortunately, it obviously ended up meaning that Brighton couldn't get the winning goal. But on the other side, City, towards the end, they looked like the team that were going to win it. And the amount of chances they had, Yassine Ayari on a couple of occasions just gave the ball away to a City attacker. And there was one really late on where Cherki got the ball off Ayari, gave it to Haaland, and you just were waiting for the net to bulge. But Haaland didn't put enough on it, and Verbruggen was able to make the save. And so quite easily Brighton could have lost it. So for as much as they had the chances to win it, I think they'll be pleased with the point, really, with consider everything that happened in the game. And I think they're well worthy of the point as well. I think it's a fair result.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the Seagulls will be continuing their stay in Manchester this weekend when they visit Man United in the third round of the FA Cup on Sunday. The Red Devils, who seem permanently in crisis mode, dismissed manager Ruben Amorim on Monday after their 1-1 away draw at rivals Leeds. Does all this managerial madness at Old Trafford make Albion favourites, Darren? Another two-part question. Do we know who will be in the United dugout for this cup tie? And in terms of injury news, how are Brighton stacked?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Fletcher was obviously in charge against Burnley. He's going to be in charge for the game against Brighton as well for the interim period. And then, there's a lot of talk about Carrick maybe or Solskjaer taking over until the end of the season. But Fletcher got his sort of managerial reign up and running with a 2-2 draw against Burnley. But this will be the first time that he'll be at Old Trafford. So you don't know how it's going to react, how it's going to affect the fans. It could galvanise them. So it's an interesting one to see how it's all going to play out. But you look through the squad still, and Man United still have many good players in their team. So it's going to be, without doubt, it's going to be a tough task for Brighton. But if they can go there and be as confident as they were against Manchester City, be brave on the ball. That's the main thing that impressed me against City, is that they looked so much better in possession this time. They had more thrust, they were more dynamic with the ball and going forward. The passing was a lot crisper and sharper, and I think if they can take that to Old Trafford, then they've got a really good chance of beating them in the FA Cup, which would be the first ever time they've never beaten Manchester United in the FA Cup at the moment. So they'll try and hope to correct that. In terms of team news, so who did we have today? We had Matt Sweefer is still unavailable. He's still with a toe injury. Solly March is still out with a knee injury, along with Adam Webster and Stefanos Tissamas. But on the plus side, Charalampos Kostoulas and Joel Veltman should be available after they missed the Manchester City game. And Yankuba Minte, he's going to be assessed as well. He's still got a dead leg, which he picked up against West Ham. So hopefully Brighton should be in good shape. And just to touch on what Sam said about Kara Matoma, great to see him back fully fit and playing well. When he's on form, Brighton just have no other player like him. He just adds so much to this team. And if he can be, on form, he could be a danger against Manchester United and also for the second half of the season as well. So fingers crossed he can keep going the way he is.
Yes, fingers crossed, and best of Sussex luck to Brighton at Old Trafford at the weekend. Now, before we turn our attention to Crawley Town, Mark Dunford, nominated for League Two Journalist of the Year. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about this award you've been nominated for.
So it's the Dex Football Creator Awards for 2025, and I'm up against Sam Morshead and John Palmer, but we don't talk about our opposition, do we? Let's just talk about ourselves. Got to focus on ourselves and vote for ourselves. So, always very humbling. And just very nice too. So, but if anyone wants to vote, please do.
And if people would like to vote for you, Mark, how would they go about doing that?
There's a link. If you go onto my Twitter at Mark S. Dunford, as it says there underneath my face, I've retweeted the tweet that the deck put out. So, and you follow their tweets and whatever you call their posts, and then you can vote for there. So very humbling as it is always, but
Yeah, absolutely give that man a vote.
I don't like to brag too much because I only pull stories out of my bottom, so that's all I do.
Well, unfortunately, we've now welled the positivity out of every single thing we're going to talk about Crawley now. It's now going to be abject misery for the next 10, 15 minutes. We'll start, as we've not really had a chance to talk about it, Crawley's Christmas and New Year period. Not much joy to be found there, Mark, from what I understand.
No, I don't think we've spoken since the Saturday before Christmas where they played at Swindon, where they literally played Swindon, who were in second place, off the park. They absolutely battered them. But weirdly, for the second week running, they had a penalty overturned. They were given it and then taken away. And then a very soft penalty the other end, which won the game. Very, very disappointing, but a really good performance. And I think everybody was really buoyed going into the busy 4 games after Christmas. But it didn't really work out like that. On Boxing Day, a decent performance against Colchester. They should have won. If anyone hasn't seen the chances that started with McCurdy, then Shamanga, and then Ryan Loft at the end. It was it wasn't a scramble as such, but there were 3 clear-cut chances that went begging. But Ryan Loft, how he hasn't just battered that into the roof of the net, we'll never know. So that was disappointing in that sense. But they got a point against Colchester, a tough side. The Cowleys managed them. They're always going to be a tough game against the Cowleys. But so a point they wish they should have won. But going into Bromley, who they'd lost to 3-1 a couple of weeks earlier at Bromley, and same result, same performance. Scott Lindsay said it might have even been worse than the performance at Bromley. And it was a horrible game to be at because in the second half, when they let in the third goal, there was a bit of a mistake from Dion Conroy that led to the third goal, and the crowd just turned on Conroy, and it was quite horrible to watch, to be honest. Conroy went over and tried to lift them and say, come on, let's be positive, but it was only a section of the crowd, I should say. It wasn't the whole crowd. But yes, you could tell Scott Lindsay didn't comment on it afterwards, but you could tell he was cross. He wasn't happy with the way, first of all, with the performance, but with those particular fans having a go at the club captain who lifted a trophy at Wembley for them. The only time that anyone's ever done that for Crawley. I know you can't live on past glories all the time, but you've got to give them a bit of respect, and to boo your own captain is not good. Not a good place to be. Then they went to Barnet after a couple of new signings who started, Theo Vassal and Taylor Richards, who we'll get on to later. A much better performance, and probably should have left with at least a draw. Loads of chances again, but they lost 2-1. 2 poor goals again, both from free kicks or corners, I think they were. Interesting thing about that game, Josh Flint played left wing back rather than the back of the back three. Sorry. Thought it looked really good. And it's something that Preston Johnson, who is weirdly doing loads of really good stuff on Crawley and their signings and their formations, etc., on X. Feel free to have a look. but he suggested that, and they tried it. I'm not saying they tried it because he suggested it, but he looked quite good, Josh Flynn, and he's always so attacking. It'd be an interesting one if they start playing that a bit more. And then on Sunday, the less said about it, to be honest, the better. It was awful against Cheltenham. Well, so first half was good. Taylor Richards had a great chance, which the keeper pulled off a very good save, to be fair. But second half was an absolute shocker, and I know Sam's going to talk about that, what Scott Lindsay thought about it, but it was as bad a 45 minutes I think I've seen from Crawley Town. And again, 3 goals all came from crosses. And Sam's going to talk about what Scott Lindsay said, but it was as bad as I've seen from Crawley. So 1 point from 4 games over Christmas. It's left them in a pretty precarious position there. 21st, only 2 points off the bottom, but because they were one of only 2 games played on Sunday, every other team around them has got a game in hand pretty much over them. So it's looking pretty precarious, but we're going to get onto the signings and what might be happening. So could be some positive sides going forward, but a festive period to forget for Crawley.
Yes, and as Mark mentioned, Cheltenham scored 3 second-half goals to beat Crawley in League Two last weekend. Hakeeb Adelakun, Jordan Thomas and Robbie Cundy all struck to help Steve Cottrell's Robins to a first win in 3 games. Crawley remain winless since October, and as Mark said, they now sit just 2 points above the drop. Utterly miserable by the sound of things, Sam. Sounds like Scott Lindsay wasn't too pleased either, and rightfully so, I imagine.
Yeah, not for the first time this season and in this podcast I've spoken about a hammering given by Scott Lindsay, and this was up there with one of the biggest. He was not a happy man. He said, I thought we were brilliant at half-time in terms of the kind of the personality of the players. He said all the players were really shouting loud and beating their chest and couldn't wait to get out there for the second half. And then they perform like that, which is an absolute embarrassment, he said. Players have to take responsibility as much as it lands on my shoulders, and I'm more than capable of taking it. But come on, I don't know what more I can do. The boss was critical of his players and suggested they have justified the club's need to heavily recruit in January, having already signed 5 first-team players. And he said the players are just not doing enough. Some of the fans are saying it's not good enough. And he said, what, don't you think I know that? He said, I live this every day. You don't need to tell me it's not good enough. I know it's not. And the players at the moment aren't doing enough for this badge or this club. So therefore, we have a lot of work to do in the transfer window because I'm not putting up with it. So that says pretty much everything that needs to be known about his feelings and how things are at the club at the moment. It's not looking great. And Scott is just completely fed up, I think.
Well, yeah, and to further that point, post-match, Lindsay also admitted either he or his squad must be changed after that defeat at Cheltenham. Honesty, Mark, but maybe too much honesty, maybe. Does Lindsay retain the backing of the board? And were there any other key or interesting points from his post-match conference? Sorry, if I can say it.
I know what you mean. Yes. I mean, he does have the backing of the board, and I mean, it's very rare that you hear a manager just completely put the whole blame on the players. And to some extent, you've got to respect that. But then everybody sort of says, "Well, look at who's in charge of the players. Surely you can get more out of them." So, but I spoke to Ryan Gilbert, one of the owners, the other night, and he said, what was his exact quote? In partnership with Scott, we are 100% focused on the January window and look forward to welcoming a strong group into the building. Integrating the new talent is a key focus for Scott and the management team ahead of our next scheduled game on the 17th. As always, Scott and the team have our full support. Let's fight on. So they're backing Scott Lindsay all the way. I mean, I think there's a real bond between Scott Lindsay and Raf Khalili. Whenever you see either of them talk about each other, there's a lot of love there, I think. So I don't think getting rid of Scott is an option. If they were going to do it, surely you do it before the transfer window, so the new person comes in, gets a chance. And when the transfer window opened, I know we're going to talk about that in a minute, there were 5 new signings within 3 days. So Scott's obviously had a big say in those 5 signings, I would have thought, along with obviously Erdem Konya, Director of Football. But yeah, he has the backing. I know some of the fans. It's the first time this season after the Cheltenham game that I've seen so many comments about Lindsay out and stuff like that. There's been a lot of people saying his credit from the promotion-winning season has run out now. But I think, the board are backing him. There's going to be so many changes to the squad. The starting 11 for the Notts County game is going to be very interesting because there could be up to, 10 new players. I don't know. It's mad how many signings they've made since the transfer window. Certainly since the transfer window and since the summer transfer window as well. It is a whole new squad, but it's looking like it could be half a new squad again in January, which Scott said a lot this year. We're a new team, and that. He's going to have to keep saying that because it will be a new team. So, but he also said in his post-match about the fans, I feel for the fans. We've had so much success over a couple of years and they've had 2 years of misery. It really hurts me because the fans deserve so much more. They're great fans. They're the best in the country. They support the players, and it's really tough to take at the moment. Really tough to take, he reiterated. So, yeah, he still, although he's had a bit of a falling out with fans or has not been appreciative of some of their behaviour, the travelling fans, from what I've seen, I've watched the games live from live streams and on Sky, and all you can hear is Crawley fans wherever they go, certainly on their travelling. It seems to be the home fans, the ones that can't be bothered to go to away games, that seem to be turning on them a little bit. So hopefully it can turn around with the board's backing in the transfer market. Hopefully it brings a bit of confidence, and they've got this big break now until Notts County, which will do them the world of good.
Yes, absolutely. He's definitely been strengthening, isn't he, in the January transfer window, bringing in no less than 6 early signings at the time of going to recording. Who have the Reds acquired so far, Mark, and what do you think they will add to the squad? I think you've alluded to it there, but I imagine more new faces are likely to be on the horizon as well.
Yeah, they are indeed. So the ones they've signed, New Year's Day they announced 2 straight away. Defender Theo Fassal. He's a 29-year-old. He brings a lot of experience, and he looked quite solid against Barnet. Didn't play against Cheltenham, but he played on the left of the back three, freeing up Josh Flint to play the wing-back role. But he's going to bring a lot of experience. Attacking midfielder Taylor Richards. He looked promising in his first match, but he is lacking a lot of match practice. He's played 9 games in 2.5 seasons. So they've got to get him up to match fitness. But he showed some brilliant moments in that first half against Barnet. Should have scored against Cheltenham. If they'd gone 1-0 against Cheltenham, it could have been a completely different story and it could all be a bit more positive. But he looks like he could be quite a talent he's brought in. And then they signed forward Toby Adeyemo in on loan from Watford. Again, he started against Cheltenham, played the first half, had a chance but shot wide. Again, another one who hasn't had loads of experience, match practice, but he looked like he could hold the ball up well, looked like a bit of a physical presence, and they're looking for a forward. And I saw a few people when he signed just excited that they signed a striker, so that was good. Defender Akin Odemeo, he's played for Lindsay before. We know Lindsay likes bringing in players that he's worked with before. So he hasn't played yet, so it'd be interesting where he fits in. Bit more experience. Interesting one is fullback Johnny Russell from Glentoran. Ireland under-21 player, very highly rated. And when they signed him, Crawley said on their statement, the Reds were able to fend off strong competition from other home nations. And we look forward to watching Johnny flourish during his time with the Red Devils. So I'm due to speak to Ryan Gilbert and Raf Khalili at some point once they've done all their business. I'll be interested to know who that competition was and why a player would pick Crawley Town currently. I mean, getting to work with Scott Lindsay, I imagine, is quite a draw because he's quite a well-respected coach and he's brought in a lot of players and worked wonders with a lot of non-league players or unheard players and that. But it's an interesting choice. If you've got a lot of people coming in for you, you choose Crawley Town. So, and he looked promising in the first half against Cheltenham. Second half, nobody looked promising. But the first half, I thought he looked good. And he's got a long throw, and that seems to be the vibe at the moment, doesn't it, for Premier League games and everything?
Yes.
So he's bringing those long throw vibes to Crawley Town, which could be a big weapon going in this relegation battle. And today they signed Louis Copley from Arsenal. So the box-to-box midfielder, It's his first time moving away from the Arsenal academy. I think he's been on the bench a couple of times in the Champions League for Arsenal this year. So obviously somebody very, very promising. I like to say that it sounds like a Kevin Betsy signing. But if you're playing an academy and getting on the bench at Champions League for Arsenal, you've got to have some talent, you would have thought, haven't you? So hopefully he will provide some good talent and, box-to-box midfielder, and that's what Crawley need. They need someone with a bit of creativity and someone's going to work hard and run hard. So hopefully he can bring that. And then I'm hearing we had a story earlier in the week about Clyde Lolos returning. Some fans seem very excited. Some fans seem to think I just pulled that out of nowhere, that story. But I have it on good authority, not from the club, but from other sources, that there will be an announcement at some point in the next couple of days about Clyde Lolos. So that'll be exciting. That'll bring a lot of positivity to the fans. He did such a wonderful job when he came in out of nowhere in that season in 24, sorry. Was brilliant. Scored 14 goals in 42 games. So hopefully he can be that spark that gets the fans on side and spark on the pitch as well. That helps Crawley get out of this mess they're in at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've also bid farewell to just 2 players at the moment, Mark, as well, haven't they, Crawley Town?
Yeah, Ryan Sanford has gone. He came in, got a big long injury, never really played. I mean, he was on the books, but was one of the 8 keepers that never played. Sorry, 8 keepers that played. He wasn't one of them last season. So not a surprise. We never really got to know him, never really got to know what he was like. But Kyle Scott was a funny one, gone to Las Vegas. I can't remember what they're called. Las
Vegas Lights, yeah.
Yeah. So gone back across the pond. They got him from America. He's been there for a while. I think he came with quite a lot of promise. A Chelsea academy player, a lot of potential. Scott Lindsay was excited when he came, but it never really just worked out for him. I don't think Crawley fans certainly never saw the best of him. He got an injury at one point as well, which ruled him out. But yeah, it was he was a disappointment, I think, and to leave after 6 months shows that it just hasn't worked out for him at Crawley. I'll be interested to speak to Scott Lindsay about him and why it just didn't work out for him here.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you mentioned, Mark, the Reds are without a fixture this weekend owing to other clubs' participation in the FA Cup third round. Crawley are next in action on the 17th of January when they entertain Notts County. Has this break come at the right time, Mark? Lindsay said his side needed a month off after they lost at Cheltenham, so I think he must be pretty pleased to have a break.
Yes, I think it's the perfect time. Just with that festive period was so bad that they needed something, and they'll be grateful that Cambridge are in the FA Cup. But as well as just giving them a break from the pitch and break from possible bad vibes with the crowd and everything, because it would have been a home game, it just gives him a chance to work with all these new players and get them drilled into his style of play and get a formation working and a starting 11 working that's going to win games, because that's all they've got to do now. Draws aren't good enough, really. They've got to win games, and they've got to make the Broadfield Stadium a fortress again. I think it was before the Bromley game. They hadn't lost in 9 games at Broadfield Stadium, and it was becoming a real thing for them. But that Bromley defeat was an absolute disaster. Well, it wasn't a disaster. Bromley are a very, very good side. And God, if Crawley could sign a Michael Cheek from nowhere. He is some player. Doesn't do loads. It doesn't have many touches in the game, but scores a hat-trick. When he gets the ball, he scores. And that's all Crawley need. It was like it was Orsi in the promotion year. They need someone like that. But yeah, it's a really good chance for them just to get training drilled into them, and then get them going, ready for this game. But they got Notts County at home, who are obviously, they're in a mixed season, Notts County, but they're always a tough side. And then they got Barrow away, which is going to be a huge game, because depending what Barrow do this weekend, I don't know if Barrow are playing this weekend, but if Barrow beat Crawley, there's suddenly this massive gap between the bottom 4 and everyone else, kind of thing. So Crawley want to keep in touch with those sort of teams, and they've got no choice but to win. About Scott Lindsay, he will drill that into the players, and hopefully he will get a better response from them than there was in the second half at Cheltenham.
Yeah, absolutely. Fingers crossed Crawley turn it around. And finally, as a tradition, score predictions. Just the one game this week. Brighton's FA Cup third round tie at Man United on Sunday. Darren, I'm going to put the kiss of death in this and say I fancy Brighton to win quite convincingly.
It's a tricky one to call. If they play anything like they did against Manchester City, then they'll have a big chance. I'm going to go for a 2-2 and Brighton to advance on penalties, I think.
Ooh, Sam Morton, how do you see this one going?
Yeah, obviously it was a tough one at Old Trafford earlier in the season. United coming out on top on the day with quite a few goals, obviously 4-3. So I feel like there could be goals again. But I feel like Brighton will be out for revenge. Their record at Old Trafford is very good, and I think they will edge this one 3-2.
And thriller. And last by no means least, Mr. Dunford, what do you reckon?
I'm going for a Man United win. I think they're going to... Darren Fletcher's twins are going to score. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer going to come on as a sub and score. And Carrick's going to score an absolute screamer, run things from midfield. I think Man United might win this one. And I think they might have a good run in the FA Cup, Man United, just to sort of bring good vibes back to Old Trafford. So I'm going to go... It'll be tight. I'm going to go for a 1-0 Man United win.
There you go. Well, best of luck to Brighton this weekend. Thank you very much for joining us this week, chaps. Don't forget you can catch up with all the latest sports news covering everything we've talked about today at sussexworld.co.uk/sport. Thank you very much for listening and or watching, and don't forget to vote for Mark Dunford as League 2 Journalist of the Year as well.
Oh, you're too kind.